Linux Mint ever listens to its users, and it focuses more on stability rather than trying to be the latest and greatest and following along with the various trends. The latest version, Linux Mint 21.3, is promising to do just the same thing as it slowly begins its rollout and testing with Wayland, while still improving Cinnamon with many other fun features. Stay tuned, we'll get into all the changes. Thanks for coming on back to check out another Switch to Linux video. And today we're going to have a look at the new Linux Mint 21.3 beta. This will be out within the next couple of weeks. The beta is now just starting rolling out. I'm not even sure they have fully announced it on the Linux Mint blog as of the time I'm recording this, although a few of the Linux news channels do have the details. So you can go ahead and grab the download link from one of those if it is not yet available on the website itself. Now, this is the edition of Linux Mint that starts testing out Wayland. We have some new changes to the context menus and a few updates to that dreaded HWork program that I'm not going to talk about a whole lot for reasons you know if you follow this channel for a while. This version of Linux Mint still focuses on simplicity of relying on strong support for X while slowly moving on into Wayland. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at it. We're going to do a basic summary if you are unfamiliar with Linux Mint. We're going to do a brief look at it, have a look at how everything is functioning, and then we're going to look at what specifically is new, cover the details about how to use the new features, and then a couple of the little buggy things that I still find in here. And then stick around to the end of the video. We have some nice bonus content. I'm going to tell you why I use Linux Mint as my primary Linux distribution. And when we do that, I'm going to walk through basically the whole story about coming to Linux and then finding Linux Mint, and I've been home ever since. So let's go ahead and start by heading on into the virtual machine to have a look at Linux Mint. So here we are on the desktop for Linux Mint Cinnamon 21.3 beta. And the first part of this video here, we are going to look at the what has not changed and just a basic overview in case you are new to Linux Mint or Linux in general and want to know a little bit more about this particular build. Then we'll get into what's new and just talk about just a couple of things that are still suspicious out there. Of course, here we just got an update on the update manager is ready to go because I haven't triggered this yet. We'll minimize that and come back to it in a bit. So, of course, I like Linux Mint Cinnamon. This is my favorite Linux distribution and my favorite desktop environment. A desktop environment is the overall shell, what things look like. The Linux itself is the underlying system. Technically, it's called GNU Linux. You'll probably hear that if you float around on some forums and such. But there's a variety of different desktop environments. I like this one the most because it's modern and it's very familiar to the old school Windows, which I have found I am most efficient at working in that style of desktop. So as far as overall, the first time you log into it, you'll get this welcome screen. You can toggle this button off here if you want to turn that guy off. And then the first steps is first you can choose your desktop colors. So we have a variety of different color options. We have a mixed, we have a light, we have a dark theme, and you can choose various color options. There you go. If you want the advanced settings, this gets you a lot more details. There's a lot of themings, buttons, things like that. For the most part, we'll just kind of stick with the basic theming settings. So I change into this dark orange and gray such. We have system snapshots. This will set restore points. Driver manager for in case you think you might have some hardware that is not in the open source environment. NVIDIA drivers might be in here. You might find some weird obscure item that you might have connected to your computer might be in there. The update manager, so updates are managed down here at the bottom. This is the thing that just popped up for us because there's going to be an update to the manager. So you can see here, I just installed this, but now we already have a little update to the kernel. Hey, maybe this will fix this Hypnotics application because that's on my list of things that's not super good. We'll go ahead and install these updates just for the fun of it. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we have to give it a password to do that. So that's how easy it is to run system updates. We'll minimize that. Actually, let me just make sure it's not, okay, it's not waiting for us, so we'll go ahead and minimize that. There it is. All right. So The other thing we have is our software manager. So if you want to install software, you can hit there. Of course, if you're not in the welcome screen, the software manager by default is over here, or you can just search for software. There's software manager versus software sources, tells the system where to look for the software. The manager is actually the tool that's actually going to allow you to install software. Now, since we're doing software updates, we can't install anything, but I don't really need to install anything anyway. I want to show you what this looks like. Now, the very first time you boot it on, this is the first time I booted this up. The very first time you boot this up, it will take a few minutes to populate the data. So let's actually wait for that to finish up, and we'll come back to that in a brief moment. I have too many things running at the same time here. All right. So the other thing you might want to do is if you want to change your desktop backgrounds or your desktop icons. I personally like desktop icons. So I come over here, I'll turn on the computer, the home, and the network. This just allows me to work with a little bit, I like having the trash can there. I like having the home directory and the network. Of course, on Linux, the home directory, this is everything related to your particular system. You can show and hide files with Control-H. So over here, all of your music, all your pictures, your videos, your documents, your downloads, your desktop folder, everything's going to show up right there. Network, of course, is because I use a lot of networking things like that. We can set auto arrange, turn it on or turn it off. It's set auto arrange by default. I like turning that off so I can move things to different areas of the desktop. And for those that are more interested in the system information, this is running the Linux kernel 5.15. We are 21.3. We are on display server X. And let's see, I guess that's everything I wanted to show you. So you can copy the system information to the clipboard or upload system information. This is useful if you have some problem, you want to go into a forum and they're like, we want to know your system information, which is very beneficial for the geeks that help to figure out what in the world's going on. It's really easy to just come in here, copy this to clipboard, and then paste that right into the forum. Then you don't have to try and describe what is involved in your system. It's all available for you right there. Now that our software manager has populated its cache of data, you have a variety. These are your basic featured applications. You'll notice that some of them say FlatHub here. These are things available in the Flatpak system, which is the default universal package system that Linux Mint uses. There are software versions that are available as Flatpaks and not as Flatpaks, just in the software repository. You can decide which you prefer. Some of them are not in the repository. Like, I'm not sure if Brave is in the repository or not, so if you want to install Brave browser, you might want to use that. Let's just go ahead and see. So here you can see Brave has the only option is FlatHub. If I do Kden Live, which is the video editor that I use, you'll see that here I have a non-Flatpak version and I have a Flatpak version. Usually with Linux Mint, one of the criticisms based on Ubuntu downstream of Debian, the packages are going to be a little bit older. That personally doesn't bother me because I don't want my software to be constantly updating. Just because the developer puts out a new version does not mean I want to install that new version on my system right away. If you do like the new versions right away, the FlatHub is the better option. If you don't like them, then use the repository version. Usually I go with the repository version unless there's a known problem or there is some feature in which case I really want it to the latest version. Then I might use the Flatpak. I might use an extra repository, or in Ubuntu, a PPA. Here's our welcome screen. I think we've pretty much covered everything in our welcome screen, and now our system is up to date. It does say a reboot is required. This is because we updated the Linux kernels. We're not going to worry about rebooting the whole system right now. So that is your basic overview of the Linux Mint Cinnamon system. Overall, very nice. Last thing is, I guess, system settings right here. This is going to lead us into part 2. What is new? The biggest new thing, we're going to get to it in a bit. We'll do that one last because that's Wayland. This is the first version of Linux Mint that has the Wayland window compositor in it, and it is still considered alpha and experimental, so we have to be careful with that. But that being said, it is now an available option that we have, and so that's kind of cool. I actually, personally, my favorite is this new button here called Actions. Actions are new things to the context menu. So right-clicking over here, we can always get to our display settings, desktop, desklets. We can actually create a new launcher. If there's some application we just really want in here, we use it every single day, you can create a new launcher for it. All of that is stuff that's always been there. But this is a new type of spices that will give you more options. I've already downloaded a few of these. Now, there's going to be the possibility of getting new ones. So there's all sorts of, this is a brand new feature just announced earlier this week, and is going to allow developers to create applications. So the ones I've downloaded, the GNOME System Monitor, this is one of the greatest things Windows always had. Right click down here and you can pull up your task, like your task manager. Basically the same thing as a system monitor. Linux never really had that. Now we have it. So you just click the button over here. Here's reload all desktops. Here's restart Cinnamon. If you regularly are emailing attachments to people, hey, you can go ahead and download that one. If you're regularly printing things, you can go ahead and download that one. If you have KDE Connect, so of course KDE Connect, if you're unaware, is an application that allows you to pass files and share notifications and things between an Android phone and the Linux desktop. Well, if you use that, you can go ahead and do that. So, you can send files to your phone with a right click. Now, once you've downloaded them, they're over here in your manage. And then what you need to do is come over here and hit the enable button. So any of these you want to enable, you can go ahead and do that. And so what I did here is, now that those are enabled, I can come over here and I can boot up my system monitor. Look at that. That is to me, that is groundbreaking. That is an amazing thing. So the other things, of course, is I activated the calculate SHA2 sum, SHA256 sum. So if I need to easily verify files, this will give me the sum of the file. Now there's another one, you might have saw it in there that I did not enable it, and that is the verify SHA256 sum. That is, Linux Mint, for example, will give us what this value is. We copy this value from their website, paste it in, right click, hit the button, and then it's going to say, yes, this file is correct. So that is absolutely amazing. Of course, we should have the ability, I don't know, did I have the... It may not be showing us the KDE Connect because I don't have it set up. Is KDE Connect in there? I thought KDE Connect came pre-installed on Linux Mint. I know I've seen it on some of my other builds. I know I didn't install it because I never use it. But if you had KDE Connect, I think that would actually show up because I've actually enabled that particular setting. The next thing that is new, there are some changes to the dreaded H-word application. I'm not going to talk too much about it because, for whatever reason, I get community strikes talking about this type of stuff. There's nothing on here that's illegal at all, but there are channels, there are movies, and you actually now have the ability to add your own channels, add your own streams, and you also have, in your settings, you have a new option to download the latest version of this application that will help you playing videos from this particular platform. So you can see that this is actually going to carry with it allegedly some things. In my initial testing, it's still as buggy as all get out. You start playing something, you want to stop it, the Python window stays in there. There's no specific icon for the pop-up window that shows up. I think Hypnotics personally is a garbage program. Maybe it just needs more love and massaging and working to get working right. But hey, it's a work in progress. I can respect it for what it is, but I've never had a decent experience with it, especially since I've gotten community strikes for simply talking about it. And I don't know why. It doesn't actually violate anything, but whatever. Now, the last thing is Wayland. So if you want to run Wayland experimentally, log out, and then on that cinnamon icon there, come on down and pick your Wayland, which is an experimental protocol. And then what we're going to do is once we log in, now we are running our whole system under the Wayland compositor instead of the old one. So here we can still calculate our sum. Here's our desktop monitor, so we still have access to that. That's all nice. And then if we go into our system information, we'll see that now we are on display server says Wayland. So we do have the extra information here. Now, for anybody that is new, what is the problem with Wayland? Overall, like, people start by saying, well, there's a big problem with X. The problem with X, the X11 server, it works perfectly fine. Now, it is a zombie Frankenstein patchwork of crap, but it works. And that's the problem is people say, well, it's this giant Frankenstein patchwork of crap. So they've created this new system called Wayland, which will unify everything. The problem with Wayland is it doesn't know how to communicate well with everything. It still doesn't play nice. If I wanted to use, for example, we're using a program called Simple Screen Recorder to record this video right here for this part of the video. And Simple Screen Recorder is extraordinarily easy to use. You simply install it. You say, yes, I want to record audio. No, don't want to record audio. Choose which screen, and boom, it goes. Wayland doesn't work with it because Wayland doesn't have the connections properly to manage the full-fledged video display and put it everywhere. Other people will say, well, that's because X is completely insecure and it can access everything. Right, you may be, but if I need to simply record a screen, it's kind of a moot point. But that being said, there are advantages with going to Wayland. The problem is, I think too many distributions are pushing Wayland way too fast, and it's causing a lot of breakages, and we're not ready for it yet. And that's why I really appreciate Linux Mint's direction, taking it very slow to make sure that it is going to work properly. Now, what are my downsides of this? Well, first and foremost, going back to our system information, this is a brand stinking new version of Cinnamon 6.0.0. I am always skeptical of any software version that ends in .0.0. I do not want to put my eggs in this basket. Now, this is still a beta, so you don't want to put your eggs in the beta's basket anyway, but even once it's released, I'm not going to jump my Linux Mint systems onto Cinnamon 6.0 right away, because there has to be a period of time to get some of the basic bugs worked out. So anything that's 6.0.0, I'm going to steer a little bit clear of that for now. Not saying it's bad. I actually really love the things they're bringing to Cinnamon 6. I think Cinnamon 6 is going to be a game changer on Cinnamon. However, it is still too new. I'm not going to lay my eggs in that basket. Of course, Hypnotics, I've already mentioned, buggy as all get out. It's still clumsy. It still doesn't work right. Half the things I tried to boot up never actually load. It just sits there with a spinning circle. You try and close the Python application. It sits there forever. You got to close the whole thing. Hypnotics is garbage. I have no idea why it's even included. Honestly, it is garbage. But that being said, I appreciate what they're trying to do. So I'm not about to jump to 21.3. I would not tell you if you're already running a previous version of Linux Mint. I will advise do not jump to 21.3 as soon as it comes out and the upgrade paths are available. Don't do that. Wait for at least a few months. Now, if you're going to install a new system, I would have no problems with installing 21.3. I would, in fact, rather do that on a brand new system than go to an older version, just because I think that you're going to take advantage of a lot of things, and you're not going to have a backlog of stuff that has a potential for not working on an upgrade path. Whereas if you're upgrading it, you might have something that isn't going to work quite as well out of the box. So that is my overall take. So now let's go ahead and chat about my bonus content. So as promised, the bonus content. Why do I like Linux Mint Cinnamon the best? And how does this merge with my coming to Linux? Well, a little bit about my backstory. I'm not a computer science guy. I'm not a big tech geek. I'm just a guy who was a humble little web designer, and I was very happy using my normie software applications. I had purchased Adobe. I was using Windows 7. I was happy about that. I was considered not the best computer tech, but I wasn't a novice at computers either. I was the guy that all of the friends asked for computer thought thoughts, advice. I need a new computer. What should I get? All these types of things. But I can't say that I knew nearly a fraction then as I know now as I started experimenting. So what happened? Well, Windows 10 happened. This is before Windows 10 even rolled out. I started seeing some of the things that were going on in the background going, I want nothing to do with that nonsense. Nothing to do with that nonsense. And so looking at the options, and at that time I had a Mac, so I was actually daily using a Windows machine and a Mac computer daily just to make sure we had cross compatibility. Some of my projects were exclusively done over on the Mac, some were on the computer. And I gotta say, I just got the Mac to learn how to use them. I hate Mac. It does not jive with my workflow. I don't like the way the system works. And having been 5 years, 6 years, I don't know how long have I been doing Linux stuff, 6 or 7 years now, I think. I wouldn't even consider that either. I think it's just as invasive as Windows 10. They're just not quite as public about it. And so I start saying there's got to be something else out there. And I remembered way back a few years before that, I'd experimented with this thing called Ubuntu for reasons I'm not going to get into here, but I had a copy of it. I booted up and like, wow, this might actually work. There were some things I didn't like about it. Of course, back then it was Ubuntu with Unity 7, I think, and I didn't really like how the menu was. It didn't really jive with my workflow. It was better than a Mac, but hey, it wasn't Windows 10, and so that's fine. But I was experimenting. I found some plugins that allowed you to put a little panel at the bottom. Like, this is kind of acceptable, whatever else. So I buy one of the laptops. And I originally put Ubuntu on. We'll deal with that. And then I'm like looking around. Is there something else? And I stumble upon this Linux Mint. And I hear that this is another one that people who like Linux go to. And so I went ahead and downloaded that. I was like, hallelujah, I'm home. This is exactly the workflow I want. It's exactly the trends that I want. It has the panel, it has the layout, it has the shortcut keys. It has all those things going for it. Now, in addition, the other things I like about it and appreciate about it now, being several years into the Linux world, is I also like the stability of the software and that it is one of the most stable systems I've had. I have also had a lot of really good luck with stability on Endeavor OS running Arch. But one of the challenges I don't like about Arch is every time you do a system upgrade, you're worried, am I going to get some brand new version of some application I've been using for years and now the whole thing has changed. I'm just not ready to figure out how to do that change in workflow, So that's the type of stuff that can happen. And what I like about Linux Mint is because it's based on Debian, based on Ubuntu, it doesn't upgrade the packages as rapidly. This does not mean they're not as secure. There's a radical difference between a secure package because it gets security patches and new features and functions. I don't want my applications to change new features and new functions unless I specifically want those. With Arch, you get new features and functions all the time, and it kind of messes with my workflow. I kind of know what I need to do. I'm not looking for anything else. I like that. That's one of the reasons I like Linux Mint. It doesn't roll the software versions quite as rapidly. Now, some people don't like that. I personally do. And so that's why I personally choose to stick with Linux Mint Cinnamon as my primary function computers for the bulk of the computers that I have around here. So there is my take on that. So if you like this video, if you found it useful, please subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us some comments down there. Hit those like buttons down there. All those fun things will help the channel grow in the algorithm because we are on that naughty list. We are on that list of channels they don't always like to promote, and any boost that we can get is always helpful. You can also have a look over at the social media stuff. Have a look at the website, switchedtolinux.com, and then down at the bottom there, you'll find all the social media links in the event you use any of those. I'm not super active over there, but I will tell you when new videos pop out. So go ahead and have a look at that. Thanks for watching and hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.